on the big show here, and we're going to have a great one. J.S. Garrett is joining us, and we're going to have a fun time. Fun time. Ritual magic is what we're talking about. Yeah, we are. Yeah, we are. Wow, Jessica McCreary actually changed her picture, everyone. Uncle Dale and his Power Stash are here tonight, everyone. Make sure you go rub up against the Power Stash for some luck. Apparently, you can win the lottery just by touching it. All right, Grandmaster, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. And we're about 30 seconds away. Kingsworth Lion's Blood from Vegas, my home away from home. Welcome to our chat room, Kingsworth, and I hope you enjoy the show. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you don't mind. We'd appreciate that. All right, let's just hit that on the Tweetio there, because we're going to be coming up live soon. Cable Guy Matt is here. Remember, when you buy a free t-shirt, well, not a free t-shirt, a t-shirt from the SOR Vault, you get a free piece of autographed coaxial cable, courtesy of Cable Guy Matt. Remember, you cannot buy these in stores, people. Limit one per order. He's very strict about that, Cable Guy Matt. All right, we are 10 seconds away. We're going to have an absolute blast tonight. Sit back, enjoy. We're kicking off a brand new week here on Spaced Out Radio, and it starts in 3 seconds. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. If you want to take a listen to our archives, we have them free for you by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Follow us on our website at spacedoutradio.com, on Twitter at spacedoutradio, and our personal handle on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Once again, our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read up on Captain Shirts, SOR Newswire, and much more. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. J.S. Garrett is a metaphysical mad scientist who is obsessed with rediscovering the secrets of the great magicians of the ancient world, figuring out how they accomplished this seemingly impossible, such as living for hundreds of years, parting oceans, raising the dead, or summoning storms to wipe out entire armies. Garrett specialized in many different areas, but the thing he is most passionate about is helping other magicians awaken their inner godhood, helping them to reach a level of power and ascent they never dreamed possible. And apparently you may have to grow a beard for this as well. Even the ladies may have to grow a beard. But we're going to find out about that in just a moment, because in the bottom of hour number 3, we will bring you the SOR Newswire, brought to you by Paranoia Magazine. J.S. Garrett, thank you so much for joining us on Spaced Out Radio. Really appreciate the time, man.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate you having me on. And again, I apologize for my wife, Barbie, not being present tonight. She had a family emergency earlier today, which has completely preoccupied her. So I'm very happy to be standing in for her, and it's an honor to be on your show. Thank you.
Well, I tell you, you can sure tell what a great husband you are by stepping up to do a 2.5-hour interview with us in a 3-hour show. You know, you must really like that Barbie girl, you know, just because you're stepping up to do this for her. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you, sir. And yes, I definitely like her very, very much. That's why I've been married to her for 15 years now, and plan to be married to her for the next 50.
That's beautiful, man. That's rare. 15 years. You know how rare that is these days?
It's very rare.
Wow. That's just awesome. I love it. I love hearing success stories like that, man. I really do. I got to ask you, you know, let's get to know you a little bit, familiarize our audience with you. How did you get into ritual magic and learning about all of this? Because usually for a lot of people, when they go down this road, they have an experience, or maybe they were brought up in a certain type of household that the majority of people were not. How did it start for you?
Okay, well, so the way that it started for me was as a small child. I grew up in a house with a lot of poltergeist activity and things like that, like shit you would see in the fucking movie. Or sorry, I apologize. You told me not to swear. I apologize. Stuff that you would see in the movies, like really terrifying stuff as a child. And, that followed me throughout my adult life. And once I became an adult and I found myself in a horrible situation that there really was no liberation from, I reached out to the one thing that I knew could save me, and that was black magic. So I dived in head first and put my life back together, and I've been full force head on ever since.
That's amazing, man. So, what led you? Why did you think, and what happened in that instance where you thought black magic was the way to save your life?
Well, okay, so in my younger adulthood, my wife and our three small children, we were attacked at a private swimming pool in our neighborhood by five meth addicts, actually, and their intention was to beat us to death and kill us and possibly rape my wife or my children in the process. And so I utilized deadly force in order to put a stop to this attack. Now, I did not have to shoot anyone, but I did have to pull a firearm in order to protect my family. So, in the state that we lived in at the time, there was no self-defense law. There was no stand your ground law. It's if you have an altercation and you use deadly force, you get arrested, you get charged, and the jury sorts it out. So, that's exactly what happened. I was arrested. I was charged with 5 accounts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. And I spent the next 4.5 years fighting those charges while I lost everything that I owned and expended all of my assets. So I was getting ready to represent myself in a court of law, which is as we all know, it's an instant go to jail free card. And so at that point, I was completely desperate. I was up the creek without a paddle, and I started looking for anything out of the ordinary, out of the box that could save me and my family from this predicament that we were in. And the one thing that I kept coming back to was black magic. And the reason I knew that this was possible and that these external entities were actually very, in fact, real external from us is because of my childhood upbringing in the house that I grew up in, which was extremely haunted or infested. So, I began doing evocations with Belial or Belial because, it had been said that that was the entity that could best help someone with legal problems. And so I made my first contact with Belial or Belial. Um, and what I asked for was for my charges to be dropped, for me to not have to spend one more dime on a lawyer or fines or anything like that. I wanted the charges dropped and I wanted my freedom. And so I made an agreement with him, and 24 hours later, I got a phone call from my attorney telling me that the DA was dropping all of my felony charges. So at that point, my jaw hit the ground, and I was freed of this horrible predicament that I was facing. And after that, I've been wide open ever since. One of the things that I asked Belial for was to teach me magic, to take me under his dark wing and teach me sorcery directly from him so that I could become an accomplished black magician, and that so me or my family would never suffer the likes of this again. And that's exactly what he delivered within 24 hours. And so I've held true to my end of the bargain, and I have been wide open ever since, learning how to perform ritual magic and teaching others how to do that as well.
A lot of people listening to this for the first time may say you sold yourself you sold your soul to the devil, or something along those lines. I'm sure you've heard all of those types of questions before. What do you say to people who think that's what you did?
Well, I would say that whenever I summoned this ancient demonic force, he did not ask for my soul. All he asked for was my dedication to the path that I was asking him to guide me along. As far as I can tell, the demons do not want your soul. The angels do not want your soul. The only entities or religions that want your soul are the extreme right-hand path religions that demand that you baptize your children at birth in order to deed their soul over to some other god in order to save them from hellfire. If, in my opinion, if you actually tried to summon Satan himself and sell your soul, he would laugh at you and say, I don't want your soul. That's yours. Learn how to fucking, excuse me, sorry. Learn how to take control over your own life, your own self, your own soul. It's about liberation. It's not about selling yourself into slavery.
So for you, do you consider yourself a Satanist?
Well, I guess that would depend on how you define Satanist. If you define Satanist as some evil guy down the road that sacrifices the neighborhood cats and worships the devil, then absolutely not. That is not me. But what I consider to be a Satanist is an adversarialist, someone who stands against and opposes all forms of tyranny and slavery and oppression. So if that's how you define a Satanist, then absolutely slap that label on me. But, as far as the traditional stigma of Satanism, it's nothing like what the movies, television shows, or modern day religion has made it out to be.
So how did your family react to you going down this path? Because for a lot of people, this isn't a normal path. And I hate to use that term because it sounds so like I'm disparaging you or something along those lines. But for the majority of us, that's wouldn't be considered a normal decision.
I agree. It was not a normal decision. It was absolutely abnormal what I did to escape from this nightmare that I was living. And so the way my family responded to that, after my charges were spontaneously dropped, I went to my father, I went to my brother, I went to my sister, and I told them what I did. I told them what happened, and I told them about the experience that I had leading up to that. And, I got jaws on the floor, wide-eyed, terrified looks from my family. And as I tried to explain it to them, it was like they fully understood and accepted the path that I was going down, but none of them have been willing to embark on that path themselves. They have called on me to perform my ritual services in times that they were in need, but as far as actually walking this dark path, they were terrified of it, just like everyone else.
Should people be scared? I mean, I hate to put it this way, but most people in your position, and I've met a few Satanists or Luciferians. One of my good friends of this show is a Luciferian witch, and she is just, in my opinion, a beautiful soul. If we could use that term. How have you dealt with that stigma and that reputation that comes along with it?
Well, the way I deal with it personally is I embrace it fully. And my loved ones, my family and friends, they see the change and the difference in my personal life and the life of my family since I started walking this path. I went from being dirt poor, cutting people's grass, pressure washing people's houses and driveways in order to barely make the rent each month, to being the most successful ritual for hire magician on the face of the earth that I know of today. I have sold and performed more ritual for hire than any other magician that I know of on the face of the earth. And I attribute that success to the path working that I've been doing. And although my family, my friends, my loved ones, they have not embarked upon the same path that I have, they see what I've done with my life and they admire that. And anytime any of them find themselves in trouble, I'm the first person they call to help them with that.
Just hearing in your voice, I hear a real sense of strength, a real sense of confidence that many people lack. And you're attributing this to your choice of religion and the choice of who you are internally. What were you like before all of this?
Okay, well, the person that I was before all of this happened is someone that I would be ashamed to be today. I look back on my past self. I'm not proud of who I was. I'm not proud of the things that I did leading up to that point where I started walking this path. And I will say that I have completely changed internally and externally 100% through the path workings that I've done with these so-called demonic evil entities, and that's not what they are at all. And the only way that you can find that, understand that, and figure that out is to meet them and know them face to face. And so if I had to look back on my past self, I would say shame on you for not figuring this out sooner. Shame on you for the universe forcing you into a predicament where you had lost everything and everyone that you loved in order to open your eyes and get you to actually start walking this path of self-enlightenment, self-realization, self-empowerment, and adversarialism.
Did you lose a lot of family and friends over that, or did you gain?
Well, I never had a lot of family and friends leading up to that. I had my father, I had my brother, I had my sister, and I absolutely have not lost them. Okay, the relationship that I have with them has improved 100% since the time I started walking this path. As far as friends, yes, I lost a few people that I considered friends up until that point, simply because of my spiritual beliefs. But I have in turn made 10 times the friends and met 10 times the people that I ever could have met otherwise, simply by doing this publicly, putting out the information that I have discovered, and like seriously embracing this path and welcoming all others who would embrace this path with me. I've found my true family, I believe.
And anybody, I like anybody who can find their strength. I don't really care what it is or what have you. Whatever works for you, it may not work for me, but who am I to judge what you choose? It's your life, and you're allowed to do that. How has it been for you, or being a father? And let's take it down to the family atmosphere. Father with children. How have your children reacted to this? How have they been treated? Do they follow the same guidelines as you do religiously, or are you allowing them to choose their own path as well?
Okay, so the answer to that is I absolutely 100% allow them to choose their own path. If they ask me questions because I have small children, then yes, I will answer them honestly. If they want to learn about something that I'm working on, then I will answer the questions and teach them accordingly. But I do not push my own beliefs on my children, because I believe that each person should make that choice for themselves when they are old enough to make that choice. And, their level of maturity determines what is old enough to make that choice. So I don't push my beliefs down my children's throat at all. I'm open and honest with them about who I am, what I do, but I always tell them that they have to make their own choice on what path they walk in this life, whether it's Christian, Buddhist, Muslim, black magician, anarchist, whatever it is. That is up to them, and I do not influence that any more than I should by them asking.
Okay, so for people who may not understand black magic, ritual magic, how does it work? How did you start off with it?
Okay. Well, everything converts down to energy. So whenever we talk about all of this stuff, evocation, demonic, angelic evocation, it all converts down to energy. All right. And so then we're really talking about metaphysics. We're talking about science. It doesn't even, at that point it's not black magic at all, because black magic is just science that we don't understand at all. So that's what we label it as magic. If aliens, flew down from the sky today and showed us all this crazy cool technology that we didn't understand, we would say that's magic and we would worship them as gods. That's probably what's happened over and over in the past. So I mean, it's a never-ending journey that we're on through this path of seeking knowledge, seeking personal power, seeking personal enlightenment. And I don't think we're ever done. I don't think there are any masters. I don't think anyone on the face of this earth knows the answer to all the questions that we all have. Because if they did, then they would probably vibrate right off the planet, off the face of the earth. So I mean, it's one of those things where it's a personal choice which path we walk. It's a personal choice how we choose to live our lives and believe. And as long as we are making those decisions responsibly and we are not harming others in our beliefs, then I can't see any evil or wrong in that, because it's what makes us happy.
So when you decided to convert to black magic, did you feel almost an instantaneous change in your attitude, change in your strength, change in your conviction as a human?
Absolutely. Absolutely. My initiation into black magic, as I was talking about before, when I was facing these charges, what I did was I successfully summoned Belial or Belial, who is known as the lawless one, the entity that can help you with legal matters. And I asked him to not only free me from the dilemma that I found myself in, but to teach me black magic himself. And it's really been nothing but beneficial. It's been tough love. Like, nothing about walking this path has been easy. There's been times when I thought I was legitimately going to die walking this path. Whenever you summon an ancient godlike force and you completely give yourself over to them and ask them to forge you into a different creature, a different being than you are now, once you make that pact or that deal or that verbal agreement, you are along you're along for the ride. You are on the roller coaster from start to finish, and there is no getting off once it takes off. And that's why you see and hear so many like horror stories of people that have dabbled in black magic, because, they make pacts, they make agreements, they do rituals thinking that nothing's going to happen. And then once it does happen and it gets real fast, then they panic and they run the other direction. They run back towards the Catholic Church, they run towards whatever faith they grew up in. But this is, like I said before, this is not an easy path. It's something that these entities, they force you to realize your own personal power. They force you to face the darkest parts of yourself, the parts that you're ashamed of, the parts that you're afraid of. They force you to embrace everything that you've ran from your entire life and to not overcome it, but to merge with it in a healthy manner, to where you're no longer struggling and fighting against yourself. You are no longer you're no longer listening to anyone else and their idealism, their ideology of how you should live your life. At that point, you are whitewashing everything you've ever been taught, everything you've ever been programmed to think. You are putting it all in a little box and throwing it out with the garbage. And at that point, that's when you really start learning everything all over again and determining how you think and feel about each subject as if you'd never been influenced at all, because you are at that point operating off your own free will, your own influence, and not the dogmatic programming that you've been trained to believe.
We've got about 30, 40 seconds left with you before we got to go to break at the bottom of the hour. J.S. Garrett is our guest tonight. When we come back, I want to get into metaphysical, because the one thing that I have learned through this entire road that we call the paranormal supernatural, man, is there is a lot of definitions when it comes to what the metaphysical is. And I'm very curious to find out what your definition of that is, especially going with black magic, ritual magic, and summoning, and everything that goes along with that. So we're in for an interesting show. I think we got a real good one here tonight, my friends, listening into Spaced Out Radio. J.S. Garrett is our guest tonight on the big show. We got him for another 2 hours here on the mighty SOR. Let's get into ritual magic. What is metaphysicalness? Is that even a word? Metaphysicalness. Let's just call it metaphysical. Let's get metaphysical. Let me hear your body talk. Body talk. More on Spaced Out Radio right after this. All right, bro, we're clear?
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Am I doing all right here? I'm doing my best to keep
yeah,
up with
man.
To stay on topic. So,
yeah, man.
Cool.
Yeah.
How much time do we got before we're live again?
We got about 5 minutes.
All right, cool. Do you mind if I hit the head really quick?
Yeah, man. Go right ahead.
All right, cool. I'll be right back. Hey, Cherry Pepsi Mike, how you doing? The man who wears a clip-on tie to work. Cherry Pepsi Mike. It's true. Totally true. What the Sam hell is going on here? Oh, weird. They changed the chat room on Spreaker. This is a fun show so far. Fun show. Hi, Cat the Kit. You're looking lovely tonight. M. Dragamot, welcome to Spaced Out Radio. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Super Virgil, I hear you're wearing a cape tonight. Is this true? Be honest. We know Joe Monk is wearing a cape. Hi, Jenny. How are you? You're looking lovely tonight. Hi, Barnabas Bites. What's going on? Dude, Cherry Pepsi Mike, you totally wear a clip-on tie with your scrubs on. I know you do. Instead of McDreamy, they call you McCherry. It's totally true. I heard it. Hey, Randy Spurl. It's a good time so far, man. Yeah. Having fun.
Good. Thank you again for doing this.
Oh, no, thank you. Like I said, I really appreciate it. I'm sorry Barbie couldn't be here. It just happened a couple hours ago. She got that phone call and had to haul ass to Florida. So it was one of those family emergencies that we did not expect to see coming. And I'm glad I could fill in for her.
Oh, dude, we're going to have a great show. I've already changed all the promos, so everything will save on you now. Barb's out. We threw her out. Just threw her out. Yeah.
Well, hey. I'm sure she'll be more than thrilled to come back on in the future.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It was a crazy day, and she's dealing with family stuff.
Hey, man, that's always allowed. I had a guest last week, literally 3 hours, 4 hours before showtime, called me up out of the blue. He's like, dude, I can't do the show tonight. I'm like, why? He goes, my nephew just died. And I'm like, oh, don't worry. Go do your thing. You know, we've always got somebody in our back pocket that we can get in there on a short notice. So I'm not too concerned about it. And,
cool.
But thank you for stepping on in.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, man.
No problem. All right, we've got just over 1 minute left.
All right, cool. My wife's not here, so I'm smoking in the house.
She take the kids with her, or you got them in another room?
No, she took my daughter with her.
Oh, cool.
So it's just me in this gigantic house all by myself. So I
Beauty.
figure I can burn a few cigarettes in here, and she won't know the difference when she gets back in a few days.
I'm not telling a thing. I'm not saying a thing. All right, we've got about 30 seconds. Thank you to Brett Lewis and the gorgeous Kimberly for the amazing super chats. It really helps us out what we do. And to our new listeners here, do us a favor, hit that thumbs up, thumbs down. Mainly hit that subscribe button along with the bell so you know when we are coming on. And we'll give you all the social media followings here as well as we move forward here. We're going to get going here in about 8 seconds. So sit back, stay tuned. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. I really do appreciate earning your listening ears. We want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with J.S. Garrett. We are talking ritual magic, and we're going to get into right now what metaphysics is. Let's get metaphysical with the bearded wonder himself. J.S., welcome back.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
What is metaphysics?
Okay, well, I mean, we can go from the standard definition of what metaphysics is, or I can talk about it from the way that I understand it. Metaphysics to me is working with energy. If you study the holographic universe, if you read that book, then it really helps you to understand how that none of us are actual physical beings. We are all essentially holograms that are being projected into this physical reality by some force that we don't understand. So what I view metaphysics is being able to cause action at a distance, which would also be the definition of ritual magic. To be able to do something here on my end and to cause an effect on the opposite end of the world. That's how I look at it. And, when you get into what we are as beings, we are not merely physical flesh and blood beings. We are light beings. We are a hologram. We are pure energy. And if you look at our atoms, at our cells and our atoms on a microscope, like they're vibrating all crazy back and forth, and they disappear for a few seconds and then they pop back in. So that's got to make you wonder, where do I go when my atoms disappear as they're vibrating? Are there multiple levels of reality? Are there multiple universes out there? Am I living 10 different lifetimes at once? That's a good question, and the answer is probably yeah. We probably are. And so what I look at metaphysics as, I look at it as purely working with energy and being able to manipulate and utilize that energy where I'm sitting to cause a reaction where someone else is sitting. And that's what I do for my clients on all opposite ends of the world. It's a science that we don't fully understand, but we absolutely recognize that it is a science, and we're constantly trying to understand that. So whenever you get into something that you can't explain metaphysically, we call it magic. We call it supernatural, and that's really not the case. This is all science. Everything that I do is scientific. Everything that any magician that has ever come before me, I believe, is science that we don't know how to understand. And the people who wrote about it and documented it, in order for people like us to know about, like Moses parting the Red Seas or Genghis Khan wiping out armies with tornadoes. Like it's all metaphysics, it's all magic, and it's all part of this reality that we're all intertwined in, and we're all constantly trying to understand the ins and outs of that.
How do you attribute the difference between the potentiality of metaphysics and the actuality of it?
Well, I mean, I look at the potentiality as what is possible. What can we actually do with these ritual techniques, with these metaphysical techniques? And the possibility is what we actually can do. Theoretically, we should be able to part oceans, just like Moses did in the Bible. Theoretically, we should be able to walk through walls. We should be able to manifest things out of thin air if we were completely in tune with this reality and freed of the chains that bind us. I really think that we've been probably genetically altered in the ancient past to prevent us from accessing these abilities, to make us slaves, essentially, to make us inept in every aspect of our existence, other than doing what someone else has told us to do. So, I mean, what I'm really trying to do is break out of that box, break out of that paradigm, figure out just what exactly is possible. And once you get a taste of that possibility, how far can we then push that in order to manipulate and change our reality for the betterment of humankind? I mean, that's my goal, I guess.
So where does magic come into play with this then?
Well, like I was saying, like magic is a word, it's like a blanket term that we use to describe science that we don't fully understand. So one of the things that I work with a lot is radionics. Radionics machines, radionics in general, that's something that no one fully, I believe no one fully understands how radionics works. No one fully understands how ritual magic works. Like if I like say for instance, you hired me to do like a rite of deification for you, and I perform that ritual, and you reap the physical, mental, and spiritual benefits of such a ritual. How do we explain that? How do we gauge that? How do we know how much of that was the actual ritual, how much of that was the placebo effect, or your simple belief in what is happening? So what I've done is I've started experimenting on people without their knowledge, friends, family, loved ones, people suffering from diseases, people that are dying from things like cancer or emphysema. I will experiment on them without their knowledge, with the intention of trying to heal them or help them or prolong their life. And then I will observe that person and see what the results of my actual ritual was. And if they have no knowledge that ritual ever took place, then it completely eliminates the placebo effect. So therefore, whatever cause and effect actually happens between me and that person is my genuine results from the magic or ritual or science that I am performing.
Okay, so when you go down that road, let's say I come to you and I say, look, I'm having a lot of bad luck. I feel like the world is weighing on my shoulders. Nothing seems to go right for me. What can I do on a spiritual level to change that? What are you going to do?
Okay, well, I mean, first of all, I would ask them why they think that is. Like, why does nothing go right for you? Why is your life in the crapper? Why are all these things going wrong? And so what I do is I sit down with my clients face to face on Skype or Zoom or whatever platform we're talking on, and I ask them these questions. I ask them to give me their story in their words in the best way that I can understand it, or the way that I can best understand it. And so, at that point, I will diagnose or attempt to diagnose what the problem is. So I'll have a lot of people come to me and say, like, I'm being tormented by a spirit, or I'm being targeted by a black magic. They'll tell me the craziest stories that would sound completely crazy to your lay person. But if you've actually experienced these things yourself, then they don't sound that crazy anymore. So to give an example, I had a client a while back who every night when he would lay down to go to sleep, he would feel like he was being sexually assaulted by an invisible entity. like something that he could not see, could not punch, could not fight his way away from. And so at that point, I've got to sit there and I'm going to say, okay, is this person insane? And I will talk to them and gauge whether or not they're insane. And if I determine that, okay, this person is a sane, rational person, and they really are dealing with something horrible here, then at that point, I will go down the list of remedies that I've learned from other practitioners, that I've developed myself to try to free them of whatever that torment or spiritual bondage is. So if somebody comes to me and says, I'm having bad luck, my life sucks, everything goes wrong for me, then I'm going to say, okay, well, let's see if we can do a ritual to possibly turn your luck around, to turn your life around. And in that case, first thing I would do is probably walk them through a not magic ritual that is designed to remove any type of curse or negative energy or whatever it is that is stuck to them. It removes it and wipe the slate clean. Then I would probably do like an evocation for them of protection. And the number one entity that I would work with in that scenario is Ophal, the angel of deliverance. It is said that this angel can remove any type of curse or spiritual bondage that has been placed upon a person, whether it's by another person, by an entity, or from another life, or whatever you want to blame it on. He can restore spiritual health as well as physical health and alleviate the person of whatever it is that they're suffering from. And so 9 times out of 10, I will end up doing an evocation with Ophal on behalf of that person. And 9 times out of 10, they are delivered from whatever suffering they're enduring.
So let's just say I'm not a part of your religion or not a part of your belief system. I'm a believer in God, or maybe I'm a believer in Buddhism, or, whatever it may be. There's 5,000 deities to choose from on this planet.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Does it matter my religious background in order to get these rituals done?
No, not at all. At least not in my experience. I've got clients all over the world. Some of them are Muslim, some of them are Buddhists. Some of them are from religions that I don't even know how to pronounce. And I find that most of the mainstream religions and the mainstream belief systems are designed to keep people in their place, to keep them from discovering their own personal power or what they're capable of. And most of the time, the negative afflictions that they are suffering spiritually stem from those religions. So, I have not found a religion that a person comes from that I was not able to help through these ritual practices, if that answers your question.
Okay, so in that sense, it doesn't matter. But for a lot of people who do have, whether they're agnostic beliefs, religious beliefs, or whatever, a lot of them they may say, well, do I really want to have any type of dark powers giving me the power, because doesn't that lead me down a darker road if I believe in the internal thoughts of life?
Yeah. Well, you got to say, why are these powers considered dark? Why is reaching for power, for personal power, considered to be evil? And that's because that's what we've been taught since day one. Growing up in the church, it really doesn't matter what dogmatic religion you've grown up in, or if you haven't grown up in a religion at all. Television, TV shows, movies, that's enough to dogmatically brainwash someone into thinking that anyone who actually reaches for power shall be destroyed by it. And that's what we see portrayed in every movie, every TV show, every story from every religion. Anybody that gets up off their knees and reaches for the power to control their own destiny shall be destroyed by it. So therefore, it's evil to wish for personal power. It's evil to reach outside of your religious paradigm for anything that could possibly liberate you from your life circumstances. It's that have been brought on by that religion. It's a total mind bone, it's mind control at its very best. And you can find it in every aspect of our society, every mainstream religion. even government. Government and religion are not separate. They tell you government and religion are separate, but they are not, because government and religion combined together, they ensnare 95% of the population. Okay, so whoever is not afraid of going to prison will fear going to hell. Therefore, they will stay in line. And the 5% of those crazy people that will not be controlled by law or religion, they keep our prisons full. So it's a finely tuned system that we're all born into and indoctrinated into and coached from the time we are born, from the time we start kindergarten, to fall in place like a good little servant and do your part to serve society, which serves the machine, which is the government, which is the religion. They both work together. That's my opinion.
All right, so take us through what rituals are. You've mentioned this a couple of times. Many of us may not be familiar with it.
Okay. So my idea of a ritual or a black magic spell or whatever you want to call it, that is creating action at a distance. That means that I can go out into my ritual space, light a fire, light some incense, light some candles, summon an ancient entity or demonic, angelic, godlike force, and offer them a sacrifice of burning flesh and blood on behalf as an offering in exchange for what I'm asking them to change about this physical reality. All right. And so by giving them that sacrifice, I am giving that entity that I've summoned, I'm giving them the power that is necessary in order to go forth into the world and create the physical change that I'm asking them to create. So, I mean, it's really like, if you get into evocation and sacrifice, it's a matter of exchange. It's a matter of currency. Blood is spiritual currency. And that's why every ancient religion, including Christianity, is full of blood sacrifice if you go back to its roots. Like it's a science that has been lost and stamped out of our society. And the prime example of this would be the Christians. Back during the back during the witch burning trials and things like that. That's whenever Christianity was attempting to conquer most of the free world, which they absolutely did. Every witch that they burned at the stake was a sacrifice of burning flesh and blood to the Christian God, which gave that God, whether it was an actual real God or an egregor that they had created, a thought form they had created, whatever it was, through those sacrifices, they gave life and consciousness to this entity that dominates and controls our spirituality. And you see the same thing in Islam. You see the same thing in the Asian cultures. You see the same thing, like the African and Haitian cultures are actually the most pure in their belief system, as well as the Hindu culture. Like, they believe in multiple gods. They honor their gods. They practice sacrifice. They practice ritual magic. The only people that don't practice ritual magic are like Christians, Muslims, and Buddhists. Like, they don't do anything. They just get on their knees and pray for whatever they're asking for. And if their prayers are answered, then thank God. If they're not answered, then oh well, it was God's will. Practicing black magic, ritual magic, whatever you want to call it, embracing these practices forces us as human beings to take responsibility, full responsibility for our reality, for our life, and for everything that is taking place in our life. If you don't like something that's happening in your life, then change it. You have the power to do so because the people, the magicians that came before us have given us those tools. All we have to do is pick them up and use them and not be afraid of them.
So in what instance would I use ritual magic in my life? Like if you taught me.
I would say in any instance where you want to create a change in your life, in your reality, but that change is beyond your control to actually do yourself. So if you find yourself in a pickle, whether it's legal or marital problems, relationship problems, money problems, dealing with enemies, whatever that problem might be, if it is something that is hindering you in your life, that is affecting your lifestyle in a negative way, then at that point you would raise and take up the sword that is ritual magic in order to fix that problem and restore your life to a life of your choosing, because you have taken control and power over the situation you are in, and you make that change happen.
Okay, so for you, teaching me how to do this, or teaching somebody in our audience how to do this, is it something that we have to sign a contract with, to, much like like you were kind of talking, you gave yourself to Belial, I believe, right? Belial,
Yeah.
Belial. Okay, do I have to do that in order to circumvent the powers to help me instead of coming across negatively?
No, not at all. I'll even go so far as to say that people don't have to give up their own religious beliefs. If you're a Christian, that's great. The definition of Christian is someone who strives to be Christ-like. All right. What was Christ? Christ was possibly the greatest black magician that ever lived on the face of this earth. He raised the dead. He made the blind man see. He turned water into wine. He was actively using ritual magic to do the things that he did, that they are still writing and singing songs about him thousands of years later. So no, I don't think that you have to make a pact. I don't think you have to sell your soul. I don't think you have to do anything like that in order to wield the power that is black magic, because we're talking about science. All you have to do is learn the right technique to create the specific change that you want to make in your reality, and you can do it no matter who you are, where you come from, or what your belief system is. This is science. We can all use it.
All right, give us an example, as we got about 3 minutes to go here before we go to break at the top of the hour. Give us an example of somebody calling you up and you having to choose a spell or a ritual for them.
Okay. All right. Cool. So, I can give a lot of examples of that, but we've got 3 minutes, so I'm going to expedite this. All right. So for an example, if someone comes to me and says, JS, I'm sick, I'm suffering from some awful disease, I'm suffering from fatigue, I need something to help to heal me and restore my life and give me the energy to take back my personal power. In that case, my go-to is always the rite of deification, which is where I pull a person's spirit out of body, quite literally, and offer them a sacrifice of burning flesh and blood, allowing their spirit to absorb that energy and then carry it back to their body. And that in turn gives their body the energy that it needs to heal itself, because all healing is self-healing. Whether you're taking a pill to get rid of a sinus infection, you're giving your body what it needs to heal itself. So, that's one example. I could give you a million if we had time.
Well, we got time for one or two more.
All right. So another ritual that I offer is something that I call the Court of Belial. And, like I said, this was the entity that freed me from the charges that I was facing earlier in life. And he is the lawless one. He has no respect for the law. He has, he thinks that people should be free to do as they will, and our own actions shall either liberate us or condemn us. So if someone was suffering from an unjust legal situation and they came to me and told me about it, I would perform a sacrificial rite with Belial, asking them to liberate them and free them from the chains that are threatening to bind them and destroy their lives. Every time I've done that, that person has been liberated.
What do you use for a sacrifice?
Typically, I will use a rooster.
I could just imagine.
I have a coop full of roosters behind my house. I raise them myself. I take care of them. I love them. I care for them. I form relationships with these chickens, with these roosters. And, they are practically worshipped up until the point where they are sacrificed. And the reason I chose roosters for this practice is because they provide a large amount of blood and a large amount of flesh to be incinerated, which is just as great as a blood offering. You could use a smaller sacrifice. However, the amount of blood matters, because blood is spiritual currency. So the more blood you spill, the more powerful the ritual that you're doing is going to be.
Wow, I did not know that. I tell you, I am getting educated tonight. Educated. And I appreciate that. When we come back in hour 2, I want to get into some of the history, because you like old school magic, parting of the seas, changing the weather. Let's learn about that. We'll take audience questions in our chat rooms as well. J.S. Garrett is our guest tonight. Ritual magic, we're on it. Just keep your roosters safe on Spaced Out Radio. All right, man. I'm just gonna run my dogs outside. I'll be right back. Okay.
All right, cool. I'm gonna take a piss again. So yeah, perfect.
Travelers Club for just $5 a month, and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR, where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com, where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com, and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
Are you an experiencer of something strange that can't be explained? Do you want help finding out what's going on? I'm Ryan Stacy, head of the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We've teamed up with Spaced Out Radio to investigate cases filled out in the SOR Sightlines report. We are independent, and there's no cost to what we do. All we need is your experience. Let's find out what's happening together on the SOR Sightlines report.
The party is always on at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is where you want to be when visiting Canada's West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at mightymoosebeard.com today.
Hi, this is Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news.
All right, I'm back.
All right.
We've got just over 2 minutes. All right. All right, we're all caught up. Hello, gorgeous Marie. How are you? All right, about 90 seconds.
Cool.
1 minute. I have some shit caught in my teeth, and it's driving me nuts.
I hear you. You know, right before we got on, I busted my knuckles turning a wrench earlier.
Oh, I hate that.
I know what you mean.
I hate that. All right, we got 20 seconds. Big thank you to Brent Lewis and Kimberly for the awesome super chats. Thank you for everybody. Hi, gorgeous Katie. How are you? Yes, I am a wonderful hairy beast. Yes, I am. That's why I live in the tundra of British Columbia. All right, 5 seconds, guys. We're going to get rocking and rolling.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for tuning us in. My name is Dave Scott, sitting here in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Good to be with you guys tonight. Want to remind you that we appreciate everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club, Ecmnesia. Ecmnesia is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with J.S. Garrett. Ritual magic is the call for the night, and we're going to get into your questions as the audience starts to participate here in our chat rooms or on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. J.S., welcome back.
Oh, thank you. Glad to be here, man.
All right, let's go back in time here, whether it's recent time or historical time. One of the things that you have loved about your studies into ritual magic and magicians of the past is a lot of the biblical prophecy that has gone on about the parting of the seas or the manipulation of weather. Why has history meant so much to you in learning about ritual magic?
Well, I think that's because most of actual ritual magic, or the greatness that has been accomplished through ritual magic, has been either completely wiped out of our history or twisted and contorted into being something else. You know, it flat out says that Moses parted the Red Sea, okay? But instead of saying that Moses did that upon his own personal power, it says that, you know, okay, it gives all the glory to some God, you know, that actually did this for him. And the same thing with Jesus Christ. The same thing with every other person that's ever done anything great, from Joan of Arc to Genghis Khan to Spartacus in ancient Rome. Like, they take the credit away from the actual person who does the actual deeds, and they attribute it to some god that may or may not exist. It's a way of taking away personal power from that person. So Moses, his staff, that's something that he was notorious for having, was his staff, the staff of Moses. It's supposedly said that he would actually hand carve a history of his successes as a magician. Like, every time he had performed a successful spell or ritual, he would carve it into his staff. And in times of great turmoil, where he needed something to reference to remind him of his own personal power and strength, he would look at his staff and say, okay, I've done this, I've done this, I've done that. Yes, I can part the Red Seas. Boom! And he parts the Red Seas. I don't know if we can attribute that power to some god that we can't see or hear or touch or know. I think that we can attribute that power to a badass sorcerer that was Moses.
All right, but in a lot of ways, could we not say the same for you with Belial? We don't know if he exists.
Absolutely. And I'm definitely not taking any credit away from Belial here in my own success. I came to him a broken down, withered away, poor excuse for a human being, and asked him to help raise me up and free me from my chains and teach me how to become who I have become today. And, I can give 50% of that credit to Belial himself, and I can give 50% of that credit to myself for actually putting forth the time, effort, and hard work that it took to get me where I am. So it's like the gods will meet you halfway, and if you're willing to bleed for it, if you're willing to die for it, if you're willing to do whatever it takes to accomplish whatever it is you're summoning these ancient gods to help you accomplish, then yes, that credit goes to them, but it goes to you as well. Otherwise, it never would have happened because no one would have summoned them in the first place.
Okay, so going back in time, let's just choose one here. Let's say weather manipulation by Genghis Khan, where it was alleged that he, manipulated the weather to cause tornadoes to wipe out his enemies. Okay, yeah. What about stories like that really intrigue you?
Well, what really intrigues me about that is the fact that it's historical fact that he actually did these things. And it's actually documented in our recent history. These are not fairy tales. These are not biblical tales. These, this happened recently enough in our history to where there is multiple recorded accounts of Genghis Khan riding out with a small army against a larger force. And then before they meet that larger force on the battlefield, either an ice storm or a series of tornadoes comes in and wipes out the opposing army. And then Genghis Khan essentially just rides in and cleans up the mess afterwards. That could happen once, and you could say, okay, that just happened to happen. That was coincidence. It could happen twice, and you could try to rationalize it away. But with Genghis Khan, that happened about a dozen times that are documented historically. And so at that point, you have to realize that something that this man was doing could be considered magic, ritual magic, whatever you want to call it. He was known as a shaman king. All right, so he was the king of his people, but he was also the spiritual leader of his people, and he was in touch with otherworldly entities, otherworldly beings that helped him build the greatest empire that our modern society or modern day world has ever seen. They conquered more of the world than any other empire out there, as far as I know. So I mean, you have to look at people throughout history like Genghis Khan, Joan of Arc, Jesus Christ, Spartacus. I mean, we could go on and on naming all of these people. You look back through history, and the one thing that they all have in common is they all claimed to be in contact with otherworldly entities, and they were all magicians. They were all sorcerers. They all believed in the practice that we are still practicing here today. And the rituals that we are practicing here today are just as powerful now as they were 1,000 years ago or more.
Okay. And I can see where that's going. So in the case of Genghis Khan, how did that happen? How, in your studies of this, how was he able to manipulate the weather to his benefit?
Okay, well, I'll tell you what I think. I can't tell you definitively because, for one, I was not around back then, and history is written by the victors or whatever you want to call it. History can get misconstrued and lied about. But I'll tell you what I think it was. So according to history, Genghis Khan was a pretty much regular guy. He married a beautiful woman and took her as his wife, and then a rival from another tribe came in and ransacked his village and stole his wife, took her hostage. All right, so this other warlord that stole Genghis Khan's wife took her back to his camp and raped her and impregnated her. All right. So Genghis Khan comes home and he's like, oh my God, my village has been destroyed and my wife's been stolen. At that point, I guess he could, lay down and suffer whatever it is he was dealing with. But instead, he raised an army. He goes back to this man who stole his wife. He decimates and slaughters every member of that tribe, and he takes his wife back. And even though she was pregnant when he got her back, he still raised that child as his own, not knowing whether or not he was the actual father. Okay, so I think that out of desperation, out of being put in the circumstances that was necessary for him to go that deep, to reach that far down into hell and grasp his own personal power in order to do this, I think that he did that out of desperation. And then he didn't stop there. He conquered the majority of the free world after that. And, who's to say whether or not that was a good thing or a bad thing, right or wrong? All I know is that man did exist. He wielded true power. He performed miracles and things that we have not seen since Genghis Khan. And that's why he's one of my idols, because he is a prime example of a man that rose to every challenge, rose to every occasion, and actually did great things and built an empire upon this physical plane. And even though that empire does not stand today, it's relevant in the time period that he lived. And no matter what we do now, if we build an entirely new empire, give it 1,000 years, that empire will crumble and we'll be back at square one. So empires rise and fall. What you really got to look at is the people who rose to the occasion in the time of desperation and built those empires, did those impossible feats. And those are the men and women that I admire and strive to be like. Even though I don't find myself in a situation like that as of now, I look at them and I see greatness. I read in the history books and I read about greatness, and I see that they all utilized ritual magic, metaphysical science, whatever you want to call it, in order to accomplish the great things that they did.
So do you think then people like Genghis Khan or other religious deities or powerful people, Napoleon or any of the Greek gods, were able to summon some sort of supernatural type powers by communicating with entities of some sort?
That's exactly what I think that they did. And reading documented history proves that, if it is in fact true. So yeah, I think that they were all in communication with what we would call the gods, supernatural entities, forces. They were masters of the science of metaphysics, of creating action at a distance, manipulating and controlling the weather, or being able to perform a death rite and kill your enemy across the world without laying a finger on them. I think that they absolutely did those things. And I think that power is very real. And I think that power has been wiped out of history for the most part. And that's what I'm trying to rediscover now.
Oh, okay. So in recent history, let's go back, say, the last 200, 300 years. Are there any examples of this happening?
Well, that's a darn good question. You know, and in the last 200 or 300 years, you know, really the only examples that I can see of that happening would be with the founding of America. You know, where the Knights Templar migrated to the U.S. and built this into a great country. But you say, okay, well, how did they do that? They did that through genocide, through wiping out and murdering all of the native people that lived here before them. So therefore, I don't look at that as a great feat. I look at that as a travesty throughout, you know, in our past history. And in the last 200 or 300 years, yeah, I can't really give you any examples of anyone that has reached the level of greatness that Genghis Khan or Moses or Jesus Christ has reached. I can't do it.
Okay, so considering you are a believer in Belial and everything, do you believe then, and this gets to Shar's question, that there is afterlife of some sort, that we're not just one and done on this planet?
Absolutely. You know, I think that we are eternal and that all this pain is an illusion, according, you know, in the words of Maynard. This physical reality, it's like a video game that we're playing. And I don't know if we voluntarily signed up to play this video game or not. I don't know if it was forced upon us or if we fought and begged for the chance to live this physical reality. But I think that there absolutely is an afterlife. I think that when people die, you know, it's really just their physical bodies. Our consciousness is our soul. You know, and people look at, you know, when scientists looked at the human body, they say, okay, well, here's the brain, here's the heart, here's the reproductive organs. Where is the soul? They cannot figure out where your consciousness resides within your physical body. And that's because it's a spiritual thing. It is a spiritual consciousness that is eternal. And therefore, yeah, it's very possible that we live multiple lifetimes in these different incarnations over and over again until what? I don't know. I don't know if there's a certain point where you ascend to a level of consciousness where you graduate to fourth level density, you know, onto the next dimension. I don't know if we're stuck in a never-ending soul trap like David Icke describes. It's all very good questions, and it's stuff that keeps me up late at night, and I wish I had the definitive answers too, but I don't.
All right, let's get to another question here from our audience. And Chris Mo is asking, all the way from Austria, have you heard of Psi warfare? Blackbeard or Genghis Khan, they were apparently experts in Psi warfare.
In psionic warfare? Yeah, I absolutely have heard of psionic warfare. And, you know, I would have to reference Uncle Chucky or Charles Cosimano. He literally wrote the book titled Psionic Warfare. And it's, you know, it's been called the most evil book ever written. And it's also been called the most effective book ever written on actual warfare, as far as waging war against an enemy through non-physical means. And yeah, that's absolutely possible. You know, there have been one or two cases, I'll say, I'm being modest here, there's been a handful of cases in my life where I have had to utilize black magic in order to defend myself, my family, and my way of life. And each time I have had to do that against a specific antagonist, now sitting here, I can say those antagonists are no longer with us. And they all left this world through different means, but they all left this world in a timely fashion that benefited me. And at the same time, I've also healed multiple people of incurable diseases and illnesses that has dumbfounded and baffled modern day physicians trying to figure out how in the world this person miraculously recovered from a disease that was a week away from putting him in the grave. And that's because people don't come to me until they're desperate, until they are a week away from the grave, or until their spouse has already left them, and or until the court system is about to lock them up indefinitely, or until they've lost everything financially. At that point of desperation is when people reach out to a black magician like myself and say, please help me fix my life. And hopefully it's not too late by the time they come to me. And if it's not, then absolutely I've been able to help lots and lots of people through these techniques.
Okay, so the way that you've made people disappear, are you saying that, through prayer and rituals and everything, that maybe they have found nefarious ways to disappear, if you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. You can absolutely utilize ritual magic or metaphysics or this type of science that we are discussing here to put your enemies in the grave. And one example I could give you of that is one that happened a couple of years ago. There was a person who I discovered had abused my stepchildren, like severely, not sexually, but psychologically and physically abused my stepchildren. And when I discovered this information, I was infuriated, like any other father figure that gives a crap about his kids. I wanted to get in my truck and drive down there and take care of it in person. However, that is a one-way ticket to prison. So what I did was I printed out this person's photograph, and I used that photo as a fetish link in order to place a death curse on this person. All right. And so a year after I placed this curse, that person died in a single-engine plane crash on New Year's Eve. So it's one of those things, like, you can't control how it manifests. If you place a death curse on an enemy, they typically will develop a horrible disease and die from that. But once in a while you get lucky and it's a car crash or a plane crash or a random shooting. And so I always tell people, do not curse someone unless you are absolutely willing to look that person in the eye and pull the trigger and feel good about it afterwards, because it's not an instantaneous thing. It's something that takes time to manifest once you place something like that on a person. So, it's not something you want to do if you just get mad at your boss one day and you go home and decide to curse them. Well, that's fine. 3 months from now, you're not going to be mad about it, but they're going to be dying of cancer and coughing up blood and all of this other stuff. And you're going to have to watch that person suffer and die. And you're probably, if you are a humanistic type person, you're going to wish that you could take that back at some point, but you can't.
I got to ask you, isn't that the same or the equivalent of murder?
Absolutely.
So how have you not been charged for that?
Because it's not illegal to pray for somebody. And our modern court system does not acknowledge black magic as a real thing. So therefore, you can pray for someone to die, and if they do, then oh well, it just happened. That's the great thing about black magic, is that you can take out your enemies without ever getting your hands dirty in a way that you can be prosecuted for it. And so I do think that eventually in the near future, black magic will once again be outlawed, and they may or may not be burning us at the stake for the practice of it. But eventually, it's going to be acknowledged by the scientific community, and it will once again be outlawed. And then we're looking at another mass witch hunt. But you absolutely can take out your enemies if it's necessary.
Don't you ever worry that the retribution will come back?
Not at all. You know why? Because karma is what most people would reference when you ask me about retribution for doing something like that. Most people would use the term karma. Aren't you worried karma is going to come back and bite you in the ass somehow? And what I say to those people who ask me those questions, I'm like, karma is a self-created phenomenon, 100%. And the reason I say that is because the most horrible, evil, disgusting, wicked, pedophile, genocidal people that have ever walked the face of the earth, those are the people that are in charge of us. Those are the people making our laws. Those are the people running for president. Those are the people telling us how we're supposed to live our life. If karma was a real phenomenon, then that could not be possible, because these evil people would be done in by their own deeds before they could ever harm the rest of us. All right. So when I look at the most well-off, beneficial, most powerful people in the world and see them for the disgusting monsters that they are, and I say, where is karma? I say, where is karma on this? And that's because karma is a self-created phenomenon. Karma is the biggest mind bone that any of us have ever been boned with, because what they're doing is they are tricking us into utilizing the law of attraction against ourselves without knowing.
I'm going to get you to hold on right there, because we've turned the woo up to times 10 here on Spaced Out Radio. Black magic rituals. If you don't have the heebie-jeebies like I do right now, you're not living. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. All right, we're back.
Cool.
All right, so.
I hope I'm doing a good job at answering your questions here.
Dude, you admitted to murder.
Absolutely.
Wow, that's a first on this show. That's a first.
So, if I pray for someone to die and then they do, there's nothing illegal about that. Unless you physically kill them with your bare hands, then you're breaking the law. But I can go print out a person's picture and pray for them to die in whatever way that I see fit. And if they do, then great. You know, I've created action at a distance. If they don't, then I'm a failure. Either way, it's not prosecutable. And that's a big part of why I got into baneful magic in the first place, is learning how to take it to the ass of my enemies without getting my hands dirty and going to prison.
Wow. I'm a little blown away right now. I'm a little blown away.
It really works.
Remind me never to piss you off.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I only curse pedophiles, rapists, and people who harm my actual family. So I've never placed a curse like that on someone that wasn't a child rapist or something like that. I don't use baneful magic to settle petty disputes at all. You know, like I said, if I wouldn't look someone in the eye and pull the trigger and feel good about it a year later, then I would not place a curse on them, because a curse is way worse. It causes them to die. It's so much worse than a bullet to the brain.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to make it more happy hour on this show when we come back, man.
Cool.
Holy cow. Holy cow. What do you got back there? I'm looking at your lights there around. You got the pumpkin.
Let's see. Yeah, I've got a little pumpkin with Pennywise's face drawn on it over here. I've got my black mirror that I created for Belial that I used in all my rituals with him, and I've got a bunch of like ritual implements and skulls and things like that. You know, nothing I use is a prop. I don't do props. I don't do anything for show. Like if you see one of my rituals, everything I bring into the ritual space is something that I'm using for the actual ritual.
All right, we've got about just over 2.5 minutes. 2.5 minutes.
I hope I'm not being too extreme on your radio show here.
Oh, you're scaring the shit out of me, I'll be honest with you. But that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool.
It's something that anybody can do. Anybody can place a curse on an enemy and cause them to die. Anybody can heal a loved one of an illness. We all have the natural ability.
All right. Excuse me. We've got 2 minutes. Just over 90 seconds.
All right.
Is that a cow skull there?
This right here, that's a bear skull.
No, the one closer to the back over this way. The one nope, way up here by your computer.
Oh, let's see. I'm trying to see
your right. To your right now.
Oh, right here. This is a goat skull.
Oh, it's a goat. Yeah,
yes.
I've got a cattle skull in my property, just sitting there by my trees. It's got the nice horns.
Yeah, I actually bought that goat skull for Belial in particular, and so I performed a ritual with Belial where I consecrated that skull in blood and asked him to inhabit that skull so that I could commune directly with him through that skull on his altar.
Very cool. Very cool. 40 seconds, my friend. 40 seconds.
So you froze.
I'm sorry. Do you hear me okay?
You froze. There.
40 seconds. I want to say a big thank you to Human Carl, Cat Chaser, Eric, Brett Lewis, and I know there's more. Hold on. Where are you? And Kimberly for the awesome super chats. Great support of what we do here on Space Out Radio. We're going to continue with the show in about 5 seconds. So sit tight and get your woo on. Here we go. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. I want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show, you can always check them out on our YouTube channel. Well, that's where we store our archives for free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight. Ritual magic, dark magic. Here we go. J.S. Garrett is with us. He's got a fantastic beard going on with him as well. Could use some Mighty Moose beard oil, but I mean, that's for another conversation. J.S., welcome back.
Thank you, man. Glad to be here. Thank you.
All right. Chris Moe is asking in the chat room, have you ever prayed for the good to happen?
Absolutely. That's like 90% of what I do for my clients, as well as, the pro bono work that I do for people in my personal life. Baneful magic is a very, very small part of what I actually do. It's necessary to know how to perform baneful magic in order for self-defense. But when it comes down to what my true passion is healing people of diseases that the doctors cannot fix. And I've done that quite a few times.
Okay. I want to ask you about the difference between what you do and the legends of voodoo and hoodoo. What would be the difference?
Well, I'm not an expert on voodoo or hoodoo by any means, but as far as what I'm doing and what they're doing, I don't really see much of any difference between it. In voodoo or vodun, they are performing ritual magic, working with what is called the Loa, the spirits of that pantheon. They are summoning them. They are offering them sacrifices and other types of offerings and asking them to help them or in exchange for a favor. It's really the same thing that I do for the most part with evocation, whether it's a Loa or a demon or an angel or a jinn or whatever else you kind of label you want to put on it. I don't like putting labels on entities because that's something that we humans do in order to categorize them. And they are entities that we can't even begin to understand. So we can't possibly put them into a category. So I mean, there's really no difference at all. Ritual magic is ritual magic, evocation is evocation, no matter what you're working with. So we're all working towards doing the same things. We're just doing it in different ways.
Okay, so for many of us who are ignorant to the subject, we would almost say it almost seems the same to us. But I mean, is it about going and prophesying to other deities, or is it a different pattern of doing it?
Okay, well, what I'll do is whenever someone comes to me with a problem, a client, someone that's wanting to hire me for a ritual or something like that, first thing I do is sit down and talk to them. I ask them what's going on. They explain it to me in their own words, and then I get a good feel for that person and what they're dealing with in the situation. At that point, I go back to my experience, to my studies. What entities, spirits, whatever you want to call them, have I worked with in the past that could actually help this person? So at that point, I make an educated decision on which spirit I want to summon and offer a sacrifice or something like that to on behalf of that person. I do that based on what that spirit's specialty is, what their capability is. And I don't discriminate. I don't work with one specific pantheon. I don't follow one specific path. I essentially study as many different pantheons and systems of ritual magic as possible. I take the things that work, the techniques that work, and I discard the rest. And then I take those techniques that work and I incorporate it into my own system. And you really can't go wrong with doing your own magic. As long as you approach these entities with respect, from a place of respect and a place of honor, then you really cannot go wrong. The only way that people go wrong is they try to summon and constrain and command these entities. They try to dominate and control these entities, which never works out for anybody. If you are, say you're a godlike spirit or entity or being that's as old as time and has godlike power, and this little peon of a human summons you forth from your place of dwelling and commands you to do them a favor, and then further threatens you as to what you'll do in the name of some other god name if they don't do that favor, it's never going to work out well for you. You have to treat these entities like they are people. Treat them with the same respect that you would treat the president of the United States if he came to your house and you were going to ask him for a favor.
All right, in our chat room, The Fallen is asking, do you explain the details to your clients of how the rituals are performed?
Absolutely. Not only do I explain it to them in detail, but I also video record the actual ritual that I'm performing for them, and I send that to my client after it's done. I do this for two different reasons. One, because it eliminates any suspicion of fraud, because there are a lot of frauds peddling ritual magic for hire. People that will take your money and don't do anything for it and then make excuses for why whatever they supposedly didn't work. All right. And the other reason is because it is very good for people to be able to see exactly what you did and interact with you through that ritual just by watching that video, because all time is present to these entities. And it really doesn't matter. Once you book a magician to perform a ritual on your behalf, once you pay them and they've agreed to do it, it's already done. It's done in the future. All time is fluid, all time is present, not to us, but to these godlike entities. And so once I decide to do a ritual for somebody, at that point, it's already been done at some point in the future. All right, now we are just waiting on ourselves to catch up to that point in time where this has already happened. And so a lot of times clients will book me for a ritual and they'll start like a wealth ritual and they'll start seeing money flowing in before I ever actually perform the ritual, because it does not matter if all time is present to these godlike entities.
Okay. Let me just see here. Question coming from Soul Light. Have you ever had these spirits cure people from uncurable diseases like cancer, AIDS, herpes, etc.?
Yes. I've cured one person of genital herpes. I've cured 2 people of cancerous tumors that were incurable. One was a brain tumor. It was inoperable. I've cured 3 people of different heart conditions that were fatal. I've had a great deal of success in curing incurable diseases, and there are a lot of doctors that are still scratching their heads right now trying to figure out how their patients are still alive, and that is because those patients are my clients.
Nobody's 100% in anything.
No.
So what would be your accuracy rate on your rituals?
I would say 95%, and I have to judge that based on my return clientele. And out of all the people I have performed a ritual for over the last 5 years that I've been doing this publicly and professionally, 95% of those people have come back to me for other types of rituals, other services that were happy with the results that my ritual brought them. So, I would say my success rate is 95% at this point. No, I will also say that no magician is 100% successful. No one can guarantee you results 100% of the time because there are factors that weigh into these things that we don't even know about and can't even begin to understand. So I would say 5% have not been successful, but 95 have.
And at that, maybe it's rude for me to ask, but I will. What do you charge for a ritual?
Well, I mean, that really depends on what type of ritual I'm going to do. You know, my sacrificial rites, I think they start at like $1,200. Whenever I first started offering these services to the public, I performed these rituals, these sacrificial rites for $6.99 a piece. And what happened very quickly is I got booked so much for so many rituals that I was backed out for 4 months in actually performing a ritual after people booked me for it. And so they would hire me for a ride. I would sit down and talk to them face to face. I'm like, look, I've got you on the calendar for 4 months from now. And they're like, okay, that's too long. I want my money back. I'm like, okay, I'll give you my money back. I'll give you your money back. You know, like it's one of those things like where I'm one person, I can only do so much. And one of these sacrificial rites, that takes me a good 12 hours to execute. And that's just the ritual. That doesn't count client interaction. That doesn't count face-to-face consultations, emails, things like that. So it really got to the point where I was so backed up that I had to raise my prices in order to be able to catch up with it. And, as much as, my wife, she's really my manager as well. Like, she determines what we charge for rituals and things like that. If it was up to me, I'd do it all for free most of the time. And we do a lot of free rituals, like pro bono work for people who have children that are sick and dying, for people that are victims of the system, for people that are suffering from illnesses and, they can't afford one of my $2,000 rituals or whatever. I do that stuff for free, and I document it as we go. I do what I call ritual journeys, where I'll interview the person beforehand, I'll film the ritual, and then I'll interview them afterwards to gauge the results that they got from the ritual. And I put that on my YouTube channel. JS Garrett, that's my YouTube channel. Anybody listening is welcome to go to my YouTube channel and watch these deification journeys and other types of video content that I put out. And, if you're not convinced by the time you're done seeing all these things, then, I always welcome skeptics. I love a skeptic. Anybody who's skeptical, I'll be happy to have them on and do an interview and video their ritual and get their take on it afterwards. Like, I'm always looking to prove people wrong in the area of the assumption that black magic does not work or it's not real.
All right. Let's get to some questions from our audience here. Nikki is saying, or is asking, I know natural healers who don't need magic of any kind. Do you classify yourself as a psychic, a medium, an empath, clairvoyant, etc.?
Hell no. None of the above. I'm not a psychic. I'm not an empath. I'm not a clairvoyant or a medium. All right. I am just a crazy hillbilly that one day decided to start performing ritual evocation and demonic blood sacrifice in his backyard. And I got such great results that I wrote about it and published it in a few books. And then at that point, people read those books and they contacted me begging me to do these rituals for them, offering to pay me any amount of money that I wanted, to the point where I built my own website and put it in a couple of catalogs so that people could have access to what I do. And it quickly became a full-time job, to the point where I quit my day job, and this is all I do now. This is my full-time profession.
So for you, for people wondering, the website is jsgarrett.com. For people who do want to check it out, do you consider yourself a sorcerer then?
Well, you know, I don't like to put labels on myself. Sorcerer, I guess that's a pretty good blanket term. You know, metaphysical mad scientist, that's what people call me. That was honestly a joke. That was something like Timothy Donahue at Become a Living God. He was like, how do we introduce you to put this ritual in our catalog? I'm like, you know what? I'm not a sorcerer. I'm not a magus or a witch or any of that. I'm a metaphysical mad scientist, and anything that I can conceive goes. And as long as it works, I will do it. You know, so I mean, I look at all of this as science. So I guess, yeah, you could call me a sorcerer. You could call me a shaman. You could call me a mad scientist. You could call me a whacked out hillbilly who's out of his mind. Either way, what I do works, and that's why I stay in business.
All right, let's get to another question from our audience. Anthony is asking, what part of the diagnosis convinced you the ritual worked?
Okay, well, if somebody comes to me with a problem, a very verifiable problem, whatever that problem might be, whether it's impotence, legal problem, physical health, whatever it is, if I do a ritual for them specifically to fix that problem, and then they contact me after the fact and tell me that problem has been solved, then I can honestly say that my ritual did what it was designed to do. Now, you can attribute that to coincidence the first couple hundred times it happens, but after a couple hundred times of you doing a ritual and getting the exact desired result that you asked for, sooner or later you're going to have to admit to yourself that you are creating action at a distance and you are actively molding this reality to one of your choosing.
All right. Jenny is wondering, how do you know your own debt to Belial isn't paid in full? How will you know?
I guess I'm not sure that I fully understand the question. You know, I'll tell you guys straight up. Whenever I first summoned Belial and asked him to free me of these charges, he told me it would cost my life. All right? Telepathically, in my head, whatever you want to say. And I agreed to that because I thought that it would be better for my family to find me dead in our bathroom rather than visit me behind bars over the next 80-something years. So yes, I said yes, absolutely. If it takes my life to liberate me from this, then I'm willing to die for it. And I feel like the fact that I was willing to give up my physical, natural life is probably a big part of the reason why he answered me in the first place, and why he granted me what I asked for, and why he has helped me become the magician that I am today. So as far as like what I owe him in an afterlife, I don't think it's anything. I think that I am absolutely doing right by Belial here in my physical life by teaching the magic that he has taught me to others and putting this information out there for anyone who wants to grasp that sword and wield it for themselves for personal power. That's my job at this point.
Have you ever studied people like Aleister Crowley or Frater X in order to learn their knowledge?
Yeah, Aleister Crowley, yeah. I don't know any black magician that hasn't read something about Aleister Crowley or Crowley. and watched the videos or used his tarot deck. I will say that Crowley was a very gifted sorcerer. I will say that he was probably misguided in a lot of ways. Some things he did very well, some things he didn't do very well. One of the things that he did very well was develop the Thoth tarot deck. And I actually use that deck still to this day with very good and accurate results. And, you know, regardless of what you can say about Aleister Crowley and what type of person he was, because the general consensus is that he was the most evilest man in the world, or whatever label they put on him. Yeah, he did a lot of things that were despicable, that were downright nauseating. But at the same time, he paved the way for a lot of people during his time period that were very interested in ritual magic that didn't know where to go. So I'll say he was a very intelligent man. I will also say that he was misguided on a lot of things that he did. And even though that being the case, we can still disregard this man's flaws and look at the accomplishments that he made, like the Thoth Tarot deck, that are very, very real and successful, and magicians are still using today. We can admire something about that man. So, yeah, I have studied him.
So many questions, man, and yet my mind goes blank when, we've got about 4 minutes here before we have to go to break. At the top of the hour, J.S. Garrett is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. What will you not use your rituals on? Is there certain people? Is there certain groups? Is there certain children that you would not use a ritual on?
No, okay, I'll say absolutely not. First of all, if I'm doing a ritual on a child, it's going to be to help that child, to heal them of some type of illness. Those are the only children I have ever done magic for, is children that were suffering of an uncurable disease that I was somehow able to help in order to make sure that they lived to see adulthood. As far as any other situation in my life, if it's something that I cannot solve through physical means, I'm absolutely going to solve it through non-physical means. And to me, there really is no difference. Magic is science. Science is reality. We are metaphysical beings, and it is everyone's birthright to learn how to wield the God-given powers and talents that we all have as human beings. So magic is a part of my everyday life.
Okay, so outside of blood, do you use crystals? Do you use water? Do you use any type of salts or anything to help you with your spells or your prayers?
Absolutely. It depends on what type of spell or prayer I'm doing. Some prayers or spells call for salt, some call for crystals, some call for radionics machines, some call for blood sacrifice. It all depends on what it is that I'm trying to do, and whatever it is that is required for what I'm trying to do is what I'm willing to do, because I get results no matter what. I do not stop at failure. If I fail 10 times, I will get you the 11th time because I keep trying.
That's a lot of passion and dedication.
Absolutely.
So for you, how have over the years, how is it much like psychic ability or telekinesis or whatever we try to do, that the more you put into it, the stronger you get? Does it work that way?
Yeah, I would say it's like working a muscle. Like I'm not a telekinetic. I cannot point at something and make it move by itself. But there are humans in this world alive today that can do those things. So I don't really distinguish the difference between them. Like, we all have our own gifts, things that we are born with a natural inclination to do, and all we have to do is break outside of our own fearful paradigm in order to discover those abilities. Some people are mediums. Some people can talk to the dead. Some people can hear and see spirits like it's, real life. And, I'm just a sorcerer. I do the ritual, I get the cause and effect. I do the ritual, I get the the action at a distance. You know, I'm not a medium or anything special like that. I'm just a regular dude that started utilizing these techniques and practices to better their own life, and now I use those to better other people's.
All right. So how long have you been doing this? I forgot to ask that right off the bat.
I started experimenting with spells and ritual magic when I was 10 years old. You know, I walked away from it multiple times through my adolescent adulthood because I got overwhelmingly frustrated with trying to learn this stuff because there were no good sources to learn it from.
Right.
But it wasn't until I found myself in a place of desperation that I unlocked the keys to this personal power.
All right, we have you for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio. J.S. Garrett, ritual magic, summoning. See where it goes here as we got him for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio. His website, jsgarrett.com. You can find his YouTube channel, the same, J.S. Garrett. Check him on out. Talk about woo. It's pretty awesome. Spaced Out Radio continues with Hour 3 next. All right, we're clear.
Cool.
All right, man, we got 6 minutes.
Cool, I gotta go to the bathroom.
Yeah, I'll be right back.
On Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio, and while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chide and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thor, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
The party is always on at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is where you want to be when visiting Canada's west coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do? What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors.
All right, I'm back, dude.
Good. You doing good?
Oh, yeah. We've touched on a lot of subjects. Is there anything we haven't touched on yet that you want to get into regarding magic or rituals or anything?
I mean, really the only thing else that we could get into, I guess, would be the actual ins and outs of the rituals that I do for people.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, Nomad, how you doing? All right, we've got about 90 seconds.
Good. But yeah, I wouldn't even fuck around with any of this shit if it didn't work, and a professional magician is not going to stay in business very long if his magic does not work.
I hear you.
You should hit me up for a rite of deification.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Maybe help me lose about 35, 40 pounds.
Absolutely. I do that for weight loss as well. I've had some very overweight people that are very skinny now because we utilize that technique for that purpose.
Excuse me. We've got 35 seconds here, my friend.
Cool. But yeah, it's really something you'd have to experience to believe it's real, I guess. I tested it out on my wife to begin with, and the results were so phenomenal. I started doing it for other people, same thing. So I wrote about it, published it. Next thing I know, I'm like the most hired sorcerer on the planet, and I still am 5 years later. So
sweetness. Thank you to Jessica, Cat Chaser, Eric, Brett, Kimberly, and Human Carl for the super chats. Here we go with hour 3.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Thank you to everyone tuning us in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Ecmnesia. Ecmnesia is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. For the final time tonight, we introduce J.S. Garrett. JSGarrett.com is his website. Ritual magic is what we are talking about here. And if you want to see his rituals, you can go to his YouTube channel, hit that subscribe at J.S. Garrett as well. J.S., welcome back, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, man.
All right. How does a ritual take place? Go through.
Honestly, it depends on what type of ritual it is. But generally, like if I was going to perform a large sacrificial rite, then I would start by splitting firewood and laying out a 30-foot circle in cornmeal and building a fire. and all of that good stuff. Once your ritual space is set up and ready to go, then you go straight into the operation. So, I mean, if it was like a rite of deification or a Court of Belial or something like that, I would start off by, consecrating the ritual space in powdered bull's blood, and then summoning forth the 4 gatekeepers to hold space and protection around the operation. Then I would go straight into the evocation of the entity that I was attempting to summon on behalf of my client. And then, assuming that I'm able to successfully summon them, I would then make a petition on behalf of that person, and I would offer a rooster as a sacrifice of burning flesh and blood on behalf of that person. And then once that's done, that's the end of it. It's very simple. It's a lot of work, physical labor, but what I do is very simple. I am giving something in exchange for a favor from these entities. If blood and sacrifice are spiritual currency, then I'm offering this entity, whoever it is we summon for whatever purpose, I'm offering them a sacrifice of burning flesh and blood on behalf of my client in exchange for doing whatever it is that I'm asking them to do for that person.
Okay, so take me through one of these backyard rituals, because I did see some pictures beforehand of you and your beautiful wife Barbie kind of putting it like, I don't know what the material was, but some white lines on your grass and putting in candles and everything in the middle. What is that?
Yeah, okay, so the white lines on the grass, that's the actual ritual circle. And, we cast about a 30-foot circle and put a triangle in the center of that circle. And that's where we build a fire, is in the center of that triangle. So, I mean, like I said, it's very simple. We'll lay out the circle. We'll perform the preliminary rituals, evocations to summon protection around the circle to ensure that nothing interferes with that operation. And I'm going to summon forth whatever angel or demon or ancient god or jinn, whatever you want to call it, because they all have different labels. I'm going to summon them into the circle. And like I said, make a petition on their behalf, offer them a sacrifice in exchange for what I'm asking for. And once that sacrifice has completely been incinerated, at that point, all of that energy and life force has been sacrificed unto the entity in exchange for the favor I'm asking them to do. So, I mean, like, that's what one of the sacrificial rites look like. There are a multitude of spells and rituals and all types of things dating back millennia that we could get into for specific reasons or purposes. But I have found personally that the most powerful form of ritual magic is blood sacrifice.
All right, I do have to ask, because Vivian is asking in our chat room on Spreaker or on Facebook. She is asking, what exactly is slut water?
Okay, so slut water is something that my beautiful wife Barbie created, working in conjunction with the goddess Astarte. So it's essentially, my wife, she actually makes it in the bathtub. Like, she's not in the bath water, obviously, but we will fill up a bathtub full of water, and at that point, she has set up her ritual space around that bathtub. She evokes the goddess Astarte, makes offerings, puts implements into the water, and then makes a sacrifice unto her, asking her to infuse that water with her power and essence so that the people who utilize that elixir after the fact can reap the benefits of her power and essence. So it's really about taking regular water, adding a few herbs and implements into it, and combined with evocation, and transmuting that water into an elixir that is very magical in itself. And I'll tell you, like, we have sold probably well over a couple of thousand bottles of slut water at this point, and we have yet to receive a bad review on that. Everyone who has utilized this is very happy. And to give you an example, a good friend of mine, I won't name him because he's very well known, but he's an older gentleman who is single and is looking to have fun in his older age with the ladies. And so I gave him a bottle of salt water, and I told him to put it on like cologne before he goes out to the nightclubs or bars or wherever he goes to meet these ladies. And, the guy has been calling me every week since I gave him that gift, talking about how much action, that's a good word, how much action he is getting from that. And so he's a 100% believer. We've also utilized slut water in healing rituals to actually heal people of physical illnesses, either through direct application or through distance application. It does not seem to matter. It works across the board.
Well, that did exactly what I thought it would do. That was the explanation I thought it was. So,
hell yeah. And it works for men or for women, whether you're a woman that's looking for partners or a man who's looking for partners or a farm animal or whatever it is you're into. I would say absolutely that can definitely help you do it because it's imbued and infused with the essence, energy, and power of the goddess of love herself. We're talking about the goddess of love, Astarte, Ishtar, Aphrodite. There's a million different names. She's gone by a different name in every single culture. But every single time when it comes to love magic, to helping a married couple fix their relationship or helping a single person that can't seem to find a partner actually find a suitable partner that makes them happy, we have always evoked Astarte, and we have been utilizing slut water in those rituals. And like I said, 95% of our clients are very happy. So it's, don't take my word for it. Test it out and see what you think.
Apparently it works better than Brian Fantana's Sex Panther cologne. That's what you're saying.
It also works better than Viagra. Okay, so I actually took some of the slut water one night and activated it and rubbed it on myself in my reproductive areas, I guess we'll say. And I've never taken Viagra, but I can only imagine that was very similar to the effect that you would get from taking a pharmaceutical, only without taking a pharmaceutical. It was quite an interesting night, and I've recreated that multiple nights since then, and I'm a very happy man.
Okay, let's move on. We're going to blame Vivian in the audience for that question. Vivian, cool. Yes. All right, let's move on here. Let's see here. John, nope, that's not a question. Carl is asking, do any rituals require human sacrifice in any way up to life?
Oh, I'm sure that there are certain rituals. If you dug back into the Mayan culture or the Egyptian culture or the African culture or the Christian culture, as far back as you can go, you will find human sacrifice in a ritual magic setting. Okay, now I don't advocate for human sacrifice. I don't practice human sacrifice. If I did, I'd be in prison, just like anybody else living in America. But I will say that there is absolutely something to that, and there has to be. Otherwise, our ancient ancestors would not have done it. And we're talking about the ancient ancestors who built the pyramids all over this planet. The ancient ancestors who developed all of these ritual systems, all of these religions, all of these practices, they all practice human sacrifice. And if you look in the Old Testament, you'll see it's full of blood sacrifice. So it really does not matter what culture you're looking at, that is in their past. And so, yes, I will say that human sacrifice absolutely must hold some sort of key to power. But I myself have never done that. And that is because of my personal choices as a human being, but as well as the law. If you're sacrificing people, you're not going to get away with it for very long, so you better stick to chickens.
At least you can eat them afterwards.
At least you can eat a chicken. You wouldn't want to eat a person. That would taste like rotten pig.
Yeah, that's just not healthy. It's not a good thing to do. We don't condone that here on Spaced Out Radio. Getting back to the rituals, do you perform most of them outside in the natural environment, so that way, nature can do what it wants with it, or do you perform them more inside?
I perform my rites outside, outdoors, especially the sacrificial rites, because that requires me to build a large fire in the center of my ritual space to incinerate the blood as well as the body of that sacrifice, unless it's something I'm going to eat. But either way, the blood needs to be incinerated, because the fire transmutes the blood and the body into an energy form that can fully be absorbed by the entity that you have summoned into that ritual space. So, the Vikings had it partially right. They would sacrifice bulls or people or whatever they had, and they would just spill the blood on the ground. They would spill the blood in a bowl, and they would all paint their face with it and whatever. They were missing something. You have to put it into fire, because fire is the ultimate spiritual gateway, and it's also the ultimate tool of transmutation of energy. So whenever you spill the blood into the fire, you place the body into the fire, it incinerates that blood and that carcass and transmutes that energy that it was into a form of metaphysical energy that can be fed upon and absorbed by the spirits. So, I mean, it's, a lot of it comes down to personal choice. Me, I look at it purely scientifically, and I'm looking for the technique which works the very best for me personally. And that comes with burning the blood and burning the body of the sacrifice.
Do you get a lot of spirits come around when you do these rituals?
Absolutely. If you're out in your backyard performing blood sacrifice, that's like setting off a beacon, letting any entity or spirit or random wandering, whatever you want to call it, in the area, it's going to attract them. And that's why before I do a ritual like that, I perform preliminary rituals to summon spirits of protection to stand and hold space around the ritual circle, around the ritual space, to prevent that rite from being hijacked by some random wandering spirit. Because if I were to just go straight into an evocation and not put up those barriers, then any random wandering spirit that happens to be passing by could slip into that triangle, into that flame, and convince me, fool me into thinking that was the entity I was summoning, and then steal the energy from the sacrifice. And so by performing those preliminary rituals to put that barrier of protection around the ritual space, you alleviate, you keep that from happening.
Okay, so what kind of spirits come around?
Well, I would imagine that any type and every type of spirit would come around, because no matter what type of entity it is, whether it's an angel or a demon or a jinn or a sprite or a fairy or whatever you want to call it, they all want blood. They all feed off of blood essence. Blood is spiritual currency. No matter what system you're from, no matter what religion or pantheon you are from, any type of spirit, including a human spirit, takes energy and power from that blood sacrifice. So, I mean, that's really what I'm doing with the rite of deification. I'm evoking a living human soul out of their body and offering them a sacrifice of burning flesh and blood, allowing their spirit to absorb that energy, and then I send it back to their body, which in turn transfers that energy into their physical body and allows their physical body to heal or become strengthened and empowered of all different types of things. Like all healing is self-healing, so it's a massive energy transfer. If I give you enough energy into your physical body knows exactly how to heal itself of any affliction you're suffering from. It just needs the sustenance, and that's what I provide.
I am very curious about the black mirror you have. How does that work?
Okay. So, it's right behind me here. This is a black mirror. What I did was, I took a regular mirror and I took it out of the encasing and I, sanded off the reflective, whatever you call it, off the back of it, and I spray painted it black. I then mixed my blood with some red paint and painted the sigil of Belial, which is the main spirit that I work with. I painted his sigil on that mirror. And so what I will do now is I will sit in front of that mirror and I will practice what I call shadow work. All right, so I will turn all of the lights off in the room. I will put a stool behind me and light a single candle behind me as I sit in front of this mirror. So as that candle burns in the dark room, all I can see in that mirror's reflection is my black silhouette. All right, and so I regard that as my shadow. At that point, I work with my shadow as if it was a separate external entity. I will make blood offerings to my shadow. You worship your shadow, and your shadow will worship you. Whatever you do, your shadow mimics you. All right, and whenever they talk about shadow work, they're talking about your inner, darkest, most personal form of yourself that you are evolving and transforming into something greater. So by doing that technique, working in the black mirror, making those offerings unto your shadow self, what you're really doing is strengthening your own physical self. Everything that I pass through the gateway of that mirror, I can feel it absorbing into my physical body, whether it's blood or any other type of offering. And it has a very physical, very real effect on you that you could only understand if you did this practice yourself. So that's why I always tell people, don't take my word for it, try it yourself.
When you go into a meditation in front of this mirror, what are you trying to conjure?
I'm not really trying to conjure anything. What I'm trying to do is strengthen myself. So whenever you begin this practice, the very first time I did this exercise, what I did was I sat in front of the black mirror with the candle lit behind me in a totally dark room. I focused on my shadow and I meditated on it. And I went back as far as I could remember to my adolescent years, to my childhood years. I think my earliest memories are when I was about 4 years old. That's my earliest memories. So I went back to my very first memory. All right. And I would bring that memory to the front of my mind and I would project that image towards the mirror. What I was doing, and I went through all my memories up until my current state of being and projected those memories towards the mirror. What I was doing is I was programming my shadow. I was assigning that shadow my identity. I was giving it my memories. I was giving it my pain. I was giving it my strength. I was giving it my weakness. I was essentially deifying my own shadow in the reflection of this black mirror in the image of Belial. And at the point where I had successfully assigned my shadow my identity, then I started trying to construct that into the person that I wanted to be. So at that point, I would stare into my black silhouette and I would visualize a strong, masculine man who had accomplished everything I'd ever want to accomplish. And I would essentially worship my own shadow through the image of this mirror. And then I would make blood offerings to my shadow to strengthen and enhance that part of myself that I wanted to evolve and transform. I will make sacrifices to my shadow self because that makes me stronger. And it absolutely works. Like I can't explain it any better than that, really. Like you would really have to sit down and do this exercise to know what I'm talking about.
In that situation, do you use your own blood? Like maybe poke your finger?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I do this thing that I call soul tatting or soul tattooing. So let's say I have the sigil of Astarte, all right, on the altar as I'm sitting in front of this black mirror, focusing on my shadow self. Let's say I want to permanently imprint and sear that sigil, that energetic signature into my shadow body so that that power and energy constantly flows through my physical body from now until the time that I no longer exist. What I would do is charge and open that sigil, and then I would prick my finger and trace over that sigil in blood. And then what I do is I actually burn the sigil. I set it on fire and then I blow the ashes towards the mirror. And what a crazy thing happens when I do that. When I blow the ashes into the mirror, it feels like I'm getting punched in the gut. Like I feel this energetic force hitting me full force, and it absorbs that energy into myself. Whatever I put into that mirror, whatever I do for my shadow does for me. And this is really the black alchemy of 46 and 2. 46 and 2 is supposed to be the, like Maynard Tool, they wrote about it. They actually give away the formula in the song 46 and 2. It's activating dormant DNA and gaining full access and power to our full potential in order to manipulate and control reality to a reality of our choosing. And I think that's what I'm actually doing here. And even though I'm still a newbie, I'm still in my baby diapers as far as this technique goes, I'm doing a hell of a lot more than anybody else is. And it won't be long before I'm writing a book about this subject.
JS, I got to say, man, this was quite a wildly entertaining show tonight, man. I really appreciate it and appreciate you stepping in for your wife, Barbie, who had a family emergency that she had to take care of. And you made it wildly cool and interesting. Thank you for coming on Spaced Out Radio.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me on. And like I said, my wife, she couldn't be here for a family emergency. I was happy to fill in for her. And, if you guys don't know who Barbie Garrett is, definitely check her out on jsgarrett.com. I have every ounce of confidence that you'll be impressed in what she does. So thank you, sir.
Thank you. You hold on. Coming up next on Spaced Out Radio, we have the SOR Newswire. We have the Thought of the Day. Stay tuned. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. Good job, man. Good job.
Thank you.
Give you a few claps.
Hey, I just hope that I answered your questions.
Yeah, man.
In a
You did great.
concise way.
You did great. You caught me off guard a few times, but that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. But I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you educating our audience, and thank you so much, man. That was really appreciative.
Hey, thank you for the invite, my friend. I really appreciate it. It's so cool to be on your show, man. Like, seriously.
Thank
you. Like, it's I'm honored. Like, I'm not, I'm just a regular everyday dude, So every time I go on a radio show like Coast to Coast or like this show, I'm like, oh man, it's so cool I'm on this radio show, Like, I'm just a dumbass hillbilly. Why does anybody want to listen to me?
All right, brother. You. I got to get ready for the news here, but thank you so much for your time, man.
All right, brother. Thank you.
You take care.
Take care. And, hit us up anytime you want to do another one.
All right, buddy. Take care.
All right. Good night.
Bye-bye. Well, that went in an entirely different direction than I thought would happen. That was kind of cool. That was really kind of cool. Want to say a big thank you to Cat Chaser, Eric Files, Brett Lewis, Human Carl, Kimberly for the amazing super chats tonight. Oh, and the lovely and talented Jessica McCreary, where if you look at her picture, you will see her fine-looking hair. We really do appreciate the love and support here. And, I'm just wondering if he's sacrificing any chickens so that way Joe Boo can make him hit some home runs, too. That's all I'm saying. Come on. Major League, the movie, baseball. We're getting close to baseball season. It's that time of the year. Hold on, I got an itch on my back. Ugh. It's that time of the year where every channel here pretty soon will have the movie Field of Dreams and Bull Durham on it. Yeah, no mentioning that name there, Brett. We don't need that negativity around here. I don't miss him at all. And I will not give him any sort of motivation in here. Sorry. Dave definitely needs a massage, Jason. Definitely needs a massage. You can punch whenever you want. I know, Cat Chaser, and I understand that, but there's an entire backstory there that, yeah. Not a nice person. That's all I'll say. Not a nice person. All right, fine. We got a minute left. We'll throw on, just for you guys, a little True North here, because I know you're all excited. You all like the Mighty Moose beard oil, so we'll throw a little bit on here. Rub it in and just massage it gently. Just gently massage it through your hair. Oh, yeah, look at Dave go. Mighty Moose beard. Gary the Dutchman's going to give you a good deal. Ladies, you could put it through your hair. Just look how beautiful that looks. MightyMooseBeard.com. Use promo code SOR2019. So that way you can take advantage of Gary the Dutchman actually giving you a deal. Hey, gorgeous Larry, how you doing? Yeah, so let's kick the news off here in like 10 seconds. MightyMooseBeard.com. Check it on out. Hey, Ben, how you doing, man? We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. We want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Speaking of the news, the news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky, and sometimes the controversial. You know, this is a debate that just isn't going away. You know, we have Avi Loeb, who believes that Oumuamua was an alien spaceship. Well, now a new theory suggests that Oumuamua is nothing but a big nitrogen ice pancake. Pancake. How do you even make that theory when you didn't even get a picture of it? All you're doing is giving computers and their what's the word I'm looking for? Their calculations. You have no photo of it. And yet you got artist renderings of what it looks like? Anyways, this is going to upset me. Just going to upset me. Yeah, when Oumuamua was first detected in 2017, it was shooting through our solar system so fast it could have only originated from a faraway star. The strange object is long gone, but astronomers are still working on solving the mysteries it's made. Well, two studies published on March 16th in GGR's Planets present the case that the interstellar traveler might be a large chunk of nitrogen ice that chipped off a Pluto-like exoplanet millions of years ago during the formation of a solar system far, far away. Maybe it's part of the Death Star. We don't know. The nitrogen iceberg theory is the second natural explanation for Oumuamua's behavior following research last year that suggested it could be a rocky fragment of a planet ripped apart by its star. Both are a far cry from the extraterrestrial theories that emerged when Oumuamua was first spotted. When I first started reading the new research, I was skeptical, but it does tick off a lot of the necessary boxes, says Carnegie Institute for Science astronomer Scott Shepard, who was not involved in the work. To Maria Temming at Science News, it's definitely plausible that this could be a fragment of an icy dwarf planet, but the case isn't closed yet. Oumuamua was first observed by the Pan-STARRS 1 telescope on Maui in Hawaii, and it was since the first object recorded from beyond our solar system. Its name means a messenger from afar arriving first, Jason Daly wrote for the Smithsonian in 2017. Telescopes around the globe turned towards the object to gather as much data as possible during its short visit. They found several strange features: no visible dust or comet tail, an unique oblong shape. The object is 10 times longer than it is tall, and a reddish color that resembles objects in the outer solar system. Observations suggested that Oumuamua had been tumbling around the Milky Way for hundreds of millions of years before it happened to swing between Mercury and the Sun. When Oumuamua left our solar system, it sped away a little faster than it had entered because it's an alien spaceship. Maybe. That speed both resembled the boost that comets get when they zoom away from the sun. The heat from the sun vaporizes some of the comet's ice, which propels the now lighter object forward. In the new study, the researchers analyzed how several of the ice made of hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen would have behaved in the same situation. As it turns out, a large chunk of nitrogen ice would act the exact same way that Oumuamua did, but nitrogen gas would have been difficult for astronomers to measure with the telescopes they had in hand. In essence, there was a tail like one would expect for a comet. It just was that it was because of what it was made of, we didn't detect it, said study co-author, Arizona State University astrophysicist and planetary scientist Alan Jackson. He also makes a good country music album, so I've heard. The researchers also identified plausible sources of nitrogen icebergs, dwarf planets, and other planetary bodies at the edge of the solar systems, like Pluto and Neptune's moon Triton, are covered in nitrogen ice. Between the two papers, Jackson and the co-author Stephen Desch suggested that early in the formation of a faraway solar system, planetary bodies collided and a chunk of nitrogen was lopped off, hence becoming what we know as Oumuamua. I'm sticking with Avi Loeb from Harvard and aliens. That's what I'm sticking with. I think you two should. All right. Beachgoers in southeast Florida got a real surprise last week when the tide brought in a 20-foot aerial target drone used by the United States Air Force. The drone, part of the Air Force's Weapon System Evaluation Program, was found on Friday on the shore of Boynton Beach in southeast Florida's Palm Beach County. It was quickly recovered by the Air Force and never posed as a threat to the public. Lieutenant Savannah Bray, spokesperson for the U.S. Air Force's 53rd Wing, says that the drone, known as BQM-167A, is a subscale target drone used specifically for training exercises throughout the entire military. The drones are used to test weapon systems and train fighter pilots during live fire exercises. They are flown remotely, and they simulate a real air-to-air combat mission, said Bray, adding that shooting down one of these drones would be like firing at an enemy aircraft. Air Force officials were called to Boynton Beach, and the drone was removed within a few hours. Bray estimated that the drone found was likely shot down during a training exercise that occurred 2 to 3 sessions ago. The Air Force's 53rd Wing conducts training exercises year-round, with one held roughly every month. The Air Force recovers the drones either by boat rescues, or through parachute recovery system, as the drones can be repaired, tested, and reused. The 82nd Aerial Target Squadron operates and maintains the drones at Tyndall Air Force Base, located 12 miles east of Panama City on the Florida Panhandle. The squadron maintains 3 120-foot drone recovery vessels and 4 smaller patrol boats, the only vessels in the Air Force to recover the drones and support range safety. However, Bray said it's not uncommon for these drones to be found by local law enforcement or civilians when the Air Force can't reach them. Every now and again, something happens, waves or weather, that our boats are unable to navigate towards the drones. This one was to use in 2007. It's capable of speeds just under Mach 1, according to the Air Force. The drone can achieve flight altitudes of 50,000 feet and is launched via a rail system using a rocket-assisted takeoff. All practice drones have a phone number printed on them, just in case you find one, that directs local law enforcement or civilians who come across to call Tyndall Air Force Base, Bray said. From there, airmen will come in safely and recover the drone. That's nice that they put a phone number on there. Oh, Captain Shirk's getting a little randy with this one. Picture a long, white rod. The rod has a smooth, curved head. Is your heart rate speeding up just yet? Well, the rod is undulating at a quick but steady pace. It's moving back and forth. You sweating? Now imagine this rod is big, really big, like 10 feet long. And now imagine it is generating carbon-free electricity. That ruins the entire thought right there, doesn't it, people? That's essentially one tech startup's bold new pitch. What if clean power, but it looks like a giant sex toy? I mean, seriously. Seriously, it does. The Spanish company Vortex Bladeless has developed a model for bladeless wind turbines. While incredibly horny-sounding, may also help address the gap of how the world deploys wind power. The company says these giant rods can generate clean power and without the harmful environmental effects of traditional windmill-style turbines that can kill birds, though not nearly at the level of fossil fuels. They call it a vortex-induced vibration-resonant wind generator, but of course, it's been nicknamed by people on Reddit called the Skybrader. Skybrader. Yes, that's what I said. Skybrader. The bladeless turbine engine includes a lightweight cylinder that is fixed vertically with an elastic rod, as you can see in their mock-up video. The white cylinders appear to be waving back and forth like a hornier version of those inflatable tube men things that are at every used car dealership. But according to the company, they are actually oscillating back and forth and generating electricity from the vibration. Yes, they have had an entire scientific paper written on this study, and it shows promise. Norway's state oil company, Equinor, dubbed it one of the 10 most exciting energy startups earlier this year, and they didn't even take Viagra for that opinion. Vortex Bladeless said their new technology would allow us to capture wind power even without strong winds present, since the generators create their own movement. It also says that the model's lack of blades is environmentally beneficial, since traditional turbines can pose dangers to birds, bats, and other wildlife. There are real concerns, even though they've been also wildly overblown by Koch brothers-funded right-wing anti-renewables groups. The organization also says their turbines are super quiet, creating noise at such a low level that it's almost like a low buzz. Bzzz. Anyways, yeah, you know where we're going with this. Okay, vibrator-looking, energy-saving, or gathering tube sticking in the ground. Lord have mercy on this one. I don't know where Shirky Poo finds these stories. I think she's feeling a little randy tonight, to be honest. A former Louisiana priest and a pair of dominatrixes face vandalism charges for having sex atop a church altar last September. 37-year-old Travis Clark, Mindy Dixon, and Melissa Chang were initially charged with obscenity following the allegedly unholy act inside St. Peter's and Paul's Catholic Church in Pearl River, Louisiana. However, the St. Tammany Parish District Attorney's Office has since allowed lesser charges for the trio's alleged tryst. Court records indicate They were caught by a passerby who saw them through a church window and reported their sins to police. The dominatrixes literally were wearing corsets and high heels during the threesome, which was being recorded, according to court documents. Also recovered at the scene, sex toys, stage lights, and recording devices. This was going on Pornhub. That's what this was doing. Anyways, no word if there were handcuffs involved before or after the police got there. An attorney for Dixon and Ching states that prosecutors overstepped their bounds by bringing up the charges against them. The women confessed to the cops at the time that they were at the church to film role play with the priest, and cops determined the activities were all consensual. However, the trio was arrested on obscenity charges because they were in the view of the public. Clark was reportedly removed from the church the day after his arrest. The church's altar, meanwhile, was burned and a new one consecrated last fall. Okay. All right. Can we get out of the gutter now, Shirky Poo? Do you mind? All right. For millions of Americans, this May will be an extra noisy month. Once every 17-year hatch of periodic cicadas is set to occur across the eastern United States, and it's expected to be big. The hatch of the cicadas, called Brood X, better than Brood Z or Z, will take place once the warming spring soil reaches a certain temperature. Billions of cicada nymphs, which have been living off of tree roots for 17 years, will crawl out of the ground, shed their skin, and start feeding and looking for mates. It's hard to predict the exact day of the hatch will start, but Dr. Jessica Ware, an associate curator for the invertebrate zoology at the American Museum of Natural History in New York, expects it will be sometime around May 13th. May is going to be a loud month for sure for cicadas, she says. Male cicadas make a loud chirping sound by vibrating a plate called a timbal located on their abdomens. It's this kind of dance males are showing that they can call as loud and as long as possible, which means they're probably a good mate. Females are listening. Yes, they get a little roused by this noise, apparently. Are they calling loud? Are they calling long? It's kind of a complicated acoustic dance that they are doing. Periodic cicadas are a different species from the annual cicadas that can be heard on most summer nights after dusk. Ware said, scientists aren't exactly sure why periodic cicadas develop such a long life cycle, but it's probably evolved as a survival mechanism. Ware said cicadas are harmless, and their hatch provides food for birds, animals, and other insects. Kind of an exciting thing about Brood X emerging, because the last time these individuals were above ground was in 2004. And when you think about it, a lot's happened in the last 17 years, hasn't it? I wonder if they will understand what the iPhone is. I wonder. Anyways, moving on. Let's go to this one. Archaeologists in Greece have discovered a bronze figurine of a bull that was likely part of a sacrifice to Zeus at Olympia, the site of the ancient Olympic Games. Yes, reports say the Greek Minister of Culture dated the bull to somewhere between 1050 and 700 BC. An archaeologist spotted one of the tiny sculpture's horns sticking out of the ground after a heavy rainfall. Painstaking work clearing sediment from the intact statuette revealed burn marks, suggesting that the bull was one of thousands of votive offerings made at the altar of Zeus. The bull, like the horse, was one of the most important animals for human survival in the creation of civilization until modern times, said the Ministry of Culture in a statement. In recognition of this essential role, the ministry adds, the ancient Greeks afforded the animal a special role in religious life. Agence France Presse reports that the bull was found near the Atlas, the sacred grove of Zeus. The grove, or precinct, housed the temples of Zeus and Hera, administrative buildings for the Olympic Games, and other sites of ritual significance. And finally tonight, well, let's find out what we are at. A carpet of brown greeting Matt Lovenfoss as he pulled up to his home Monday morning. So Matt says, I went outside to have a look, and there was literally millions of spiders running around. They were running ahead of floodwater rising up in the Kinchella Creek, pouring across the back of Lovenfoss's property on the mid-coast of New South Wales and Australia. It's amazing, he says. It's crazy. No, it's just gross, because nobody needs that many spiders in their yard. Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air, because we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Dave is as follows. If you could cast a spell on anyone, what spell would it be and on whom? Start off with Anthony. I'd cast a spell on my dear old mother so she remembered more and forgot less. God bless you, Anthony, for that one. Mondak. Anyone or any living thing, if I could have more time with a couple of my deceased puppers, and not in a pet cemetery way, I would do that in a heartbeat. AC. For the scales to fall from the eyes of everyone in the world so they can see the love that surrounds all of us. That's pretty nice. Dystopia, otherwise known as Dennis. I would cast a friendship spell on a genie for wish exploitation. Nice call. Joe, on Lou Elizondo, he has to tell the truth no matter what question is asked, and he's given immunity from prosecution while the spell is in place. Replace Lou's name with Admiral Thomas Wilson and or Dr. Eric Davis, or all three. Multi-spell. Oh, very nice, Joe. That's the first multi-spell we've had on Spaced Out Radio. June, I would love to cast a spell so that I can actually see and hear ghosts. Davy, my young daughter Rudy says it should be Expelliarmus. Probably said that wrong. Judging by the pile of books next to her bed, I assume it has a Harry Potter spell. Science Bob, I would cast a spell to silence all of those who tell me not to discuss politics. Oh, Science Bob. Science Bob. That's why we love him. All right, Nikki, on no one, as there are consequences when you're on the other side for casting spells upon someone, so I've been told by the other side. Bobby wants to cast a spell on all cats because he likes cats, that they would be a little bit more friendly to him. Vivster, I highly recommend anyone to stay well away from casting spells. They can sometimes go horrifically wrong. Kira, no spells here, as they bounce back at you in the universe. Well, hold on. If you cast a spell across the universe, how does it come back? Is it like a boomerang? What's that about? Because if the universe is infinite, how does that spell come back? That's a big question. Big question. Adriano wants to cast a spell on me. I don't know why. Scarlet gets the final spell of the night. Easy. A spell to destroy black magic and drop the veil the world is draped in. Now, if I could cast a spell, what would it be? Oh. It would be a spell that shows the silver lining, that little thread that seems to tie the paranormal, the supernatural, the cryptid world, UFOs, aliens, consciousness, everything together. Why? Because I want to know what's up with that. I really do. If not, a spell to win the lottery, because old Davy would love to share some of that with his listeners. Actually, a lot of it. That's the truth. Thank you to everybody participating in the Thought of the Dave. We will do it all again tomorrow night, so make sure you check it on out. Thank you to everybody listening in to Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire, and of course to our guest, J.S. Garrett, who scared the living daylights out of us tonight, talking about spells and rituals. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thaw rocking in the background with Little Brother Is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself, Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone taking part in our chat rooms tonight on Spreaker, YouTube, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.